Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at lulu.com today. Hollywood executives are trending their projections downward for the Blue Beetle movie. Now, the Blue Beetle movie was one that was made by Warner Brothers executives during the popularity of the superhero movie craze that has basically cooled off for most of the studios, especially Warner Brothers. Now, Warner Brothers is dealing with the series of superhero movie failures, including Black Adam, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and the $200 million box office failure of The Flash this summer. And with them currently dealing with 3 straight superhero movie flops, most of the studios and theaters are trending the projections downward for Blue Beetle, which was originally expected to make $55 million on its opening weekend, but now they're trending their projections down to 12 to 17 million because Blue Beetle currently faces stiff competition from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem and will possibly still be dealing with the box office success of films like Barbie and Oppenheimer and films like The Sound of Freedom. And with this stiff competition, this Blue Beetle movie basically will not be able to build an audience for itself because the Blue Beetle that they're putting on screen, Jaime Reyes, is a 4th tier character, and this is one of the other reasons why the studio basically is starting to hesitate as related to high projections for this film, which was originally expected by some executives to do well. But when I looked at the way this film was scheduled months ago, I basically saw it as the studios looking to take out the trash. Now, usually when studios are scheduling their films, they believe that they're going to do well based on where they put them in the schedule for release. And if they really believe in a film, they will release that film as related to their summer schedule in May, June, or July. That is the time where they believe that that film will do exceptionally well, so they'll give it a prime spot on the schedule. Now, when studios don't have faith in a film, they will release that film in August, and they released films in August that they believe will not do well at the box office. Yes, these projects have been greenlit, but these are projects they believe will not perform well because at that point in August, this is where many people in regions like the South are going back to school. So this is where the studios believe they're not going to be able to get the box office. So they'll schedule a film for an August release if they believe the film is of lower quality. And that's where I saw problems with the Blue Beetle movie. When I saw the date being an August release, I said to myself, from my years of experience studying the entertainment industry, if they're putting this film out in August, they basically have given up on this film. Now, the Blue Beetle movie basically was a film that the studios greenlit because the superhero movie craze was at its peak a couple of years ago, and there were those in the Hispanic community complaining that Black Panther got a movie for black moviegoers and there was no movie for Hispanic superhero and comic fans. So the studios, Warner Brothers, decided to go out here and release this Blue Beetle movie in an effort to try to appeal to Hispanic moviegoers. But I really don't believe the studio has faith in that Hispanic audience to come out in large numbers for this Blue Beetle movie. Now, most of those audiences for Blue Beetle is extremely small because most people don't know who Jaime Reyes is. He's basically a 5th or 6th tier character in the DC universe, and he doesn't really have a fan base because the Blue Beetle fan base is split among Jaime Reyes and the second Blue Beetle, Ted Kord. Ted Kord, a white man, is one that everybody knows as Blue Beetle as related to comic fandom, but Jaime Reyes has had a hard time getting over, even though he has had multiple appearances in animated shows like Batman the Brave and the Bold and other animated shows like Young Justice. The character really hasn't gotten over very well, and that is also why the projections for the film are trending downward, and that is further compounded by a very anemic box office where many blockbuster movies have failed to catch on, such as Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and many other big budget movies that were like The Flash, which were expected to do exceptionally well. So the Blue Beetle movie has a really rough start that is even further compounded by the announcement of DC Studios executives James Gunn and Peter Safran saying that the DC Cinematic Universe will start in 2025 with Superman Legacy, and that has given people less incentive to go see any of these new DC superhero movies which sat on the shelf, such as The Flash, which was an film that cost over $200 million, or even $300 to some budget projections, and films like Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. All of these films are basically considered to be losses for the studio because they fail to answer the critical question that most audiences want to answer, and that is, why should we care? Well, why should the audience care about the Blue Beetle when it's a part of a universe that is basically ending? The DC Extended Universe basically was canceled when James Gunn and Peter Safran announced that none of the films would be considered canon anymore. And since those films would no longer be considered canon to any comic fan, most people basically have written off all of these movies and have had no incentive to go see any DC Extended Universe movies such as Shazam! Fury of the Gods, The Flash. And since they didn't go see those movies and they had bigger budgets and bigger audiences, the projections for Blue Beetle would be exceptionally low. And that basically means that this film is set on a road to flopping at the box office as we speak. So with the Blue Beetle movie, it's one that is expected by many to be a box office failure, and it's expected to be a box office failure because it's got stiff competition with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which would appeal to a lot of younger people, and the animated style similar to Into the Spider-Verse would be something that would be projected to be something people would want to see, and especially younger kids. So when I look at the projections for Blue Beetle, yeah, I saw it as a flop way back when they announced the first trailer, because when they announced the first trailer, I really saw it as a film that when I saw that August release date, I already knew that the studio had basically given up on this film. Because again, if the studios really believe in a movie, one, they're going to give that film a release date early in the summer schedule, May, June, or even early July. But if they don't have faith in a film, they will give you an August release date, or even worse, they will give you a September release date where they really start dumping the landfill films that they greenlit but they now know that are not viable because after test audience screenings, they never really resonated with the viewers. And from the Blue Beetle trailer, the film looks exceptionally mid. It doesn't look like anything special. The Blue Beetle film basically looks like another generic superhero movie, and it doesn't look like a film that answers that critical question to audiences: why should we care? If anything, it looks like a rip-off of the MCU Spider-Man movies like No Way Home and Far From Home, and also looks like a little bit of the Iron Man movies, and the fact that you've got George Lopez saying negative things about Batman basically makes this film dead on arrival. So the Blue Beetle movie's projections being low was something that I saw way back early this year, and I saw it being way back early this year because the film is exceptionally weak, and it's exceptionally weak because it really is, again, very underwhelming, and it's a very mid movie. So a lot of people, they were expecting, oh, Blue Beetle was going to do big, but it's not going to do big because the film just doesn't have that spark with a fifth tier DC character, and doesn't have that rabid fan base. I mean, most people don't know who Blue Beetle is, or care at all. So this film was one that WB went out here and greenlit, again, hoping to pander to Hispanic audiences, hoping to get the same popularity as Black Panther. But the Hispanic audiences possibly won't be coming out for this movie because the Hispanic audience for Blue Beetle isn't as big as the one that Black Panther had, and that may be the thing that really just grinds a lot of gears of WB executives who basically spent a whole bunch of money on these superhero movies and are finding out that they're taking huge losses at the box office, and taking huge losses because the audience has outgrown superhero movies, and as I see it, basically wants something different. They want something with people in it, and that's why Sound of Freedom did exceptionally well. So when I look at this Blue Beetle movie, it's looking like it's going to be a bug that gets squashed at the box office, and it's looking like a film that may not do well at all. Now, if you want to pick up some of my action-packed African-American fantasy fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the Steam series, or the John Haynes series, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to pick up my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, you can pick up a paper copy on Lulu.com right now by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up my other comic, Esteem, No Good Deed, you can find that comic on Kindle for 99 cents on Amazon.com. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can send a donation to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online booksellers everywhere today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.